Legislation sets the tone for how we treat each other as a society. It provides those boundaries and the expectations, and it also upholds the rights of all of the citizens.
Legislation is important for everyone in society as it sets rules and regulations that create an organized, safe, and fair environment in which everyone is equal.
They form the opinion that because you have a disability, that you are somehow unintelligent, stupid, ridiculously asinine, you name it. So legislation is quite important, and I hope that legislation is soon coming so that people with disabilities can be who they are. People first, disabilities after.
Hi, I'm Glen Niles. I'm the chairman and founder of the Down Syndrome Family Network, and I'm also a parent of a 25-year-old young man, Tyrese Niles, with Down syndrome. My journey as a parent of a child with Down syndrome was very difficult. Um, not having all the information that was required, I didn't know anything about Down syndrome, and I basically thought that something went wrong somewhere along the line, with the pregnancy. And, going back over it in my mind, thinking that we did everything. My wife, Carol, she was exercising. We followed all the doctor's instructions, took all the right vitamin supplements, ate all the right foods. I mean, everything was done to the letter. And yet, Tyrese was born with Down syndrome. So that came as a shock, and it was a very, very difficult blow for us to comprehend how that happened. So it was very, very difficult. I had to learn about Down syndrome, what it was, what caused it, and only then I realized that it was not our fault, that it's something that just happens. It's still baffling scientists and doctors trying to understand why this 21st chromosome, splits. And the person who has Down syndrome has 47 chromosomes instead of 46. So that was the first hurdle for me to get over. But unfortunately, the second hurdle was the fact that we found out that he had 3 holes in his heart, when he was only 2 days old. And he needed surgery or he would not survive. So it was like a double whammy. First, he was born with Down syndrome, and then we realized that he had congenital heart disease and would need urgent surgery. So that was when you almost want to throw your hands up in the air and say, well, why me? Why this had to happen to me? And not to say that you'll wish it on anybody else, but you still want to know why this had to happen to you. As I said, we did everything right. So first that first period was very challenging. So it was through education, then getting over the hurdle of having to get that open heart surgery done. We were put on a very extended list here in Trinidad, and it was only because one of my dear friends who passed on, Michelle Cato, she found out about Rotary International Gift of Life program, and we contacted them. They requested all of his medical records, and they took up his case. So he had the surgery done in Children's Hospital in New Jersey within 5 months, which was the period that he needed to have it done. And that's why he's alive today, remarkably. So even after getting past that, the other thing was continuing with his learning and development, and not getting all the information that I really needed to help me in that point. everybody would just keep telling you that he's a special child and there's a lot of things that he might not be able to do. And nobody ever told me what he might be able to do. So there again, I thought it was a hopeless case. I mean, we thought it was a hopeless case that we would basically have to take care of him for the rest of our lives or for the rest of his life, because still then people would still be believing that people with Down syndrome would not live past 25, and we didn't know anybody who will live to a grand old age. So this ignorance it didn't help us, it didn't help us at all in trying to figure out how to deal with all these challenges that just kept popping up. He took very long to learn to walk. He took long to learn to talk. And even his motor skills, he was very adept with his feet than his hands. So all of that, not knowing what to expect, made life for us very difficult. Well, we experienced many challenges because it was difficult to get information, here in Trinidad and Tobago. We we had been very proficient in treating persons with disabilities, especially intellectual disabilities, as a charitable case because you're thinking that they will not be able to do anything really. That was the thinking back then. So we just take care of them. So any direction I headed, the response was the same. I basically have to take care of him. I basically have to do everything for him. And I didn't meet at that time anybody with Down syndrome who was very independent and who could speak and who could basically live a normal life if given the opportunity. I didn't meet anybody like that. Everybody I saw was, if they were not overweight, they were nonverbal, they didn't have very strong motor skills, and their parents had to do everything for them. And I started to hate this word special, because everything was special. You have a special child, you have a special parent, and that just made, it was overwhelming with that hopelessness just came down on me again, thinking that, well, there's no future for him.
I believe that without legislation in Trinidad and Tobago, pretty much nothing gets done. And when it comes to people with disabilities, legislation will assist in by way of education and especially employment.
After attending one of the conferences of the National Down Syndrome Congress and meeting persons with Down syndrome, self-advocates, as I learned that they were called, and being able to talk to them and being able to interact with them, even going out and liming with them, I was confused because I was thinking, why didn't I meet anybody like this in Trinidad and Tobago? Why are they so different from us? Is this a different strain of Down syndrome that they have in the US and we have a worse kind, in Trinidad and Tobago? And then I met people who were like the self-advocates in Trinidad and Tobago in the US. And after speaking to the parents of both of these sets of self-advocates, I realized the major factor was early intervention. The sooner you stop treating them special and actually trying to teach them and empower them, is the better that they will be in the long run. And so I decided to say, oh, we need something like this in Trinidad and Tobago. And I came back and got together with some other like-minded parents at the time, and we decided to form the Down Syndrome Family Network. Well, laws are critical in this whole initiative. If it's one thing that we've learned, is that nothing happens unless there's a law behind it. When I look at what is going on in the US, everybody, you will hear everybody saying that, oh, laws don't mean anything. Look, they have laws and people still break the laws. But I put that, in another perspective. It's like you're telling me I'm thirsty, and you're telling me I don't need water, it will make a difference. And I'm saying, give me water, and I will show you how to use it, and it will make a difference in my life. So we need the legislation. All of the developing countries all have legislation for persons with disabilities to protect, empower, and support them. Wow. Well, Tyrese has made he has had a tremendous impact, in my life, in our lives. One, he has taught us the value of love, the value of patience, um, the value of education, especially in us having to educate ourselves on how to better take care of him. And I thought that I had a mentality where I don't give up. I have learned so much from him. He does not give up. He's a left-hander. How that happened, I have no idea, since we are both right-handers. And I remember we are both right-handed. And I remember when he was growing up, trying to get him to hold a pen or a pencil in his right hand, and he would just put it back in his left hand and use it, very well. So even playing cricket, he plays cricket, basketball, football, and playing cricket was strange for me, trying to bowl to him and he's facing the other way to bat. I even tried batting as a left-hander. That was a terrible, terrible mistake. I'm not even good as a right at being right-handed, so that was an even worse issue. But seeing him, rise to all of the challenges, when I learned to stop doing everything for him and to allow him to try, and he showed me that he could succeed at anything I allowed him to do, was fascinating. I guess that when we wonder what's our purpose in life, he has shown me what my purpose is, to definitely have become a better parent, to him, and to teach others how to become better parents to their children with or without disabilities.
There is a connection between government policy and law, in the sense that all laws start as some type of government policy. So, for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, we would have had the recent national policy on persons with disabilities. And that policy talks in very strong terms about the need to both enact laws to provide for the human rights of persons with disabilities. It also talks about the need to amend laws that we have on our statute books right now that discriminate against persons with disabilities. So once that policy is adopted and approved by the cabinet, then the process of making it a law can begin. The difficulty with the policy remaining as a policy, two things. One, it's not enforceable. So it does not really give you any rights legally, because it's just a policy, it's not a law. And the other thing is that policies can change over time. Policies can change over time as the the needs of the government or the focus of the government itself changes. It can change if the government itself changes, so that it's not enough for us to say, well, we have a policy. We have to take that further step to make the policy a law, because that is what will give full protection for the human rights of persons with disabilities.